Up. Wait a minute.
This is Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Critic, and I shoot straight from the hip.
Yeah, you know I'm always shooting straight from the hip.
Let's take a trip around the curve. Add to the stage. All right. I think this is it. Yay! Finally. Oh, child, what is going on with me in this screen? Hey, everybody. So nice to see you. Happy Sunday. We had so many things happen last week. We're 2 weeks away from the Oscars. So if this is your first time joining me, I'm Carla Renata, the Curvy Film Critic. Give me a big thumbs up to let me know you were here. Click the bell for notifications if you were on the YouTube. If you were on the other channels, find your way over to YouTube and join me. Why don't you? And we'll have some fun here. I don't have any interviews for you guys today. I will have some interviews in the next coming weeks. I will be talking with Natasha Rothwell from the White Lotus and a couple of other people, like I said, but this is Black History Month, so I wanted to get into a few things. First of all, let me check the comments and see who said what. Of course, my boy Brandon rolled through. Hey, Brandon, how you doing? And congratulations, Brandon just got accepted to a new school. We're so excited for him. Yay! Woohoo! Get it, Brandon. Get it, Brandon. Anyway, so congratulations, Brandon, and thank you for popping in. What we're going to talk about today, though, is there's so many awards going down. We're going to talk a little bit about Captain America, Anthony Mackie, because it's what Black History Month and Captain America is Black. What was happening? We're going to talk about the Annie Awards, the WGA Awards, the DGA Awards, the BAFTA Awards, the PGA Awards, and of course, we're going to talk a little bit about the SAG Awards, which are coming up next weekend. But we're going to talk about all these things because what? It's award season. And then we are going to get into who Anthony Mackie as Captain America. What? Captain America is a Black man. Oh, I cannot wait. I usually tell y'all what I did the week before, but it was a very slow week for me. I watched a lot of movies, trying to get a lot of writing and stuff together. I have some deadlines that are due for some things, so I was concentrating on that. And of course, happening right now, live from New York, it is Saturday Night Live 50, the Radio City Music Hall concert that happened earlier this week, which included people like Backstreet Boys, Brittany Howard, Cher, Snoop Dogg, Wyclef Jean, Lady Gaga, and more. But they are doing the special right now on E or NBC. I can't remember which one it is, or it might be Peacock, but you want to check that out. They have everybody from every cast in the last 50 years from Saturday Night Live. And then they dropped this poster for Wicked. Wicked Part 2 is called For Good. And Wicked Part 2 is basically the second act of Wicked if you've seen the stage show. So there's that. The Santa Barbara International Film Festival has been popping off. Luminaries were honored there like they do every year. And most of the time, the people that are honored there go on to win the Oscar. Last night, Coleman Domingo was honored for his career and his film trajectory. Oprah was there to present him with the award. And that is to your right, watching the screen, that is the executive director of the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, Roger, who is, I love him. Roger's got so much swag. But having said all of that, let's get into it. So I want to break this all the way down for y'all because I wanted to make sure that you know what's happening. So in terms of the Oscars tally, awards tally, let's start. Actually, I'm not going to start with the Annies. I'm going to start with the BAFTAs because the BAFTAs just happened today. So what happened with the BAFTAs is usually whoever goes on to win the BAFTAs will go on to win the Oscar. So Zoe Saldana repeated her trajectory and her win for Amelia Perez as best best supporting actress. She repeated her win for best supporting actress in a motion picture at the BAFTAs. That's her on the carpet. This is her after her win. Now, what I will tell you, I'm going to come back on camera for this. What I will tell you is this. The BAFTAs are usually the precursor to the Oscars, right? And so are the SAG Awards and everything else. So this is who was nominated for the BAFTAs. Not nominated. This is who won. So Mikey Madison won Best Actress for Honora, which up until this point has been won in that category by Demi Moore. And Mikey Madison won someplace. I think she won at no, she won someplace else. I can't remember where it is, but she's won twice. Honora has been is like the little engine that could, and it's been pulling up and gaining some steam. So Mikey Madison might give Demi Moore a run for her money in this category because Demi Moore has been sweeping in this category. Another person who has been sweeping in this category and shows no signs of slowing down is Adrian Brody for his role in The Brutalist. The Brutalist has not only won an award for Adrian Brody in the Best Actor category, but it went on to win Best Director at the BAFTAs. And it's won with the WGA. It's won. Did it win something at WGA? I'll just do each one of them individually. So at the BAFTAs, Adrian Brody won Best Actor. Mikey Madison won Best Actress for Honora. Best Supporting Actor was Kieran Culkin. Best Film was Conclave. Best Film not in English language was Amelia Perez. Now, Amelia Perez is winning in that category pretty consistently. They won at the Golden Globes, as did Zoe Saldana for her role in that film. And let's just sit here on this for a minute and talk about Amelia Perez. Ever since this picture was taken on your far right, Carla Sofia Gascon has literally lit her career on fire. She has been called out for some tweets that she put on Twitter that were a little not nice for Black people. Some of them were anti-Semitic, among other things, toward other people of color. Being a trans woman, it was not taken well amongst the different communities, and it literally seemed like it was going to derail the awards campaign for Amelia Perez, which was nominated for an unprecedented amount of Academy Awards. It looked like it was going to derail it at the Critics' Choice Awards, which happened last week. It looked like it was going to derail it at the BAFTAs. It did not derail Zoe Saldana's streak. It did not derail the film from picking up awards for Best Film Not in English or Best Foreign Language Film. So that is what is going on with Amelia Perez. Let me come back on camera so I can talk to you about a couple of other things. Oh, here's the carpet from the BAFTAs, which happened today. Very exciting, very exciting. All right, so other award people that won at the BAFTAs. Best Film was Conclave. Best Original Screenplay was A Real Pain. Adapted Screenplay, as I said, was Conclave. Animated film was Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. Best Documentary was Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. Best Cinematography also went to The Brutalist. Wicked picked up some awards for Best Costume and Production Design, which seems to be a trajectory for them thus far. They keep picking up those particular two awards, as does the award for Best Makeup and Hair, which went to The Substance. They seem to be picking up that award. Original score went to The Brutalist. I was kind of surprised. I thought the Wild Robot was going to pick that up. And it seems to be a consistent thing where visual effects and sound is going to Dune Part 2. For the WGA, what's been happening is one of my favorite films, y'all know the one, Nickel Boys. Ramel Ross and Jocelyn Barnes picked up adapted screenplay. Original screenplay went to Honora Sean Baker. Documentary screenplay went to Jim Henson, Idea Man, which is streaming on Disney+. Documentary script went to Part 1, Inferno to Paradise. Streaming motion picture went to The Great Lillian Hall. And when we get to the Annie Awards, this is where the Wild Robot seemed to really, really do well, was at the Annie Awards. The Wild Robot at the Annie Awards, they picked up the awards for Best Feature, Direction, Best Voice Acting by Lupita Nyong'o, Editorial, character animation, character design, best music, honoring Chris Bowers, and production design. Best feature, independent writing, went to Flow. Best storyboarding feature went to Despicable Me 4, which is an Illumination joint. And then when we get over to the PGAs, we see that the Daryl Zanuck Award for Outstanding Producer of a Theatrical Motion Picture went to Honora. Outstanding Producer of Animated Theatrical Motion Picture went to The Wild Robot. And Outstanding Producer of Documentary Motion Picture went to the Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. Now, what I will tell you about all of this is that when we get to this point in the award season journey, you start to see the same people win over and over and over again. Every once in a while, there'll be an upset. And I think there's going to be an upset possibly with the Best Actress category in particular, because it seems to be a back and forth between Mikey Madison and Demi Moore. Demi Moore has been sweeping, but the last two awards, Honora has been kind of coming up on the upswing. What is going to really solidify whether or not Demi Moore is going to take home the Best Actress Oscar is what happens with the SAG Awards. And the SAG Awards are coming up next weekend on the 20, I think it's the 23rd. Yeah, those are coming up next weekend. And in that category, we see these women being nominated for Best Actress: Mikey, Demi, Pamela Anderson for The Last Showgirl, Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, and Carla Sofia Gascon. Like I said, Carla Sofia Gascon has lit her career on fire. So I think in this category, she's probably going to be a non-entity. I'll be very, very surprised if the actors decide to give her an actor for her award. Actors love Cynthia Erivo. They love her in Wicked. Actors love Demi Moore. Actors love Pamela Anderson. They love a comeback story. But a lot of actors that I know, particularly based in New York, really, really, really identified with Mikey Madison and Honora. So because, like I said, and it's so funny that their pictures are side by side, I feel like the fight will probably be between the two of them because that's the way it's been going thus far. The upset in this category would be Pamela Anderson or Cynthia Erivo. Y'all know how I feel about Cynthia Erivo and Pamela Anderson and Demi Moore. So if either one of them won, I would be good with that. But it's going to be a horse race. And then for the female in a supporting role, we have some very different contenders in this category. Danielle Deadweiler has all but been ignored for her role in The Piano Lesson, and I think she is a spectacular actress. Spectacular. I don't understand why people do not resonate with her. Ariana Grande was great in Wicked. Zoe Saldana was great in Amelia Perez. Jamie Lee Curtis was great. Monica Barbaro in A Complete Unknown. I feel like that slot probably could have gone to Marianne Jean-Baptiste for Hard Truths because she kind of killed it. And I think she didn't get the nomination because the movie and their campaign started a little too late. When we get to the Best Actor category, because Adrian Brody has been sweeping in this category, it is very well possible that he will continue that sweep next weekend at the SAG Awards. But the upset could be Ralph Fiennes' Coleman Domingo for that role because actors love Coleman Domingo, and he has yet to be awarded the way he should be in the journey of the award season. So that is my brief, as brief as I can make it, trajectory and commentary about the award season, because I feel like I've kind of been consumed with other things up until this point. So the next couple of weeks leading up to the Oscars on Sunday, March 2nd are going to be about talking about the awards, and I'll throw in a couple of films in there for good measure here and there. But now I want to talk about Anthony Mackie as Captain America. Now, last week when I was on the air, I was not beat at all. Y'all know I wasn't beat. I was on here with no face. I think I had on a pajama top or something. But now I got my face beat, and so I'm going to talk about Anthony Mackie and Captain America. This is what I want to say about that. when we saw the last film, let's talk a little bit about Anthony's journey as before he got into Captain America. So he's been in quite a few Marvel films. So this is Chris Evans and him. Chris Evans was Captain America in every film prior to the last one, which was Captain America and the Winter Soldier, in which Anthony Mackie was in that. Anthony Mackie has also been seen in the Avengers films. This is what I will say to you about Mac and his trajectory in the Captain America zeitgeist. So this is the thing. He is hands down the best person to play this role. Now, what I will tell you about this film, and I'm just going to break it all the way down for y'all. For those people that are Marvel fans, you already know. But those of you watching this that are kind of on the cusp Marvel fans, let me just tell you a few things. They spent $180 million to shoot this film, and they had numerous reshoots. It's starring a Black man. It is directed by a Black man. It is co-written by a Black man. The director is Julius Ona. It's written by 5 people, actually, and Malcolm Spellman is one of the Black people that is on the writing team for this. The other one, Joe Simon, wrote on The Princess and the Frog, which Malcolm Spellman also wrote on the screenplay for. Now, what I will tell you about Captain America and the Brave New World is this. There are a lot of messages happening in this film, a lot of messages. There's a lot of Brave New World messages. There's a reference that Sam is no Steve Rogers from POTUS, President Ross, who's being played by Harrison Ford. And I think that one line speaks so loudly to where we are in America right now in terms of racial divide and racism in general, that people have a hard time seeing someone Black, someone Latino, someone Asian exceeding their expectations of what they think someone in those races are capable of. They do it so much so in Captain America, Brave New World, that Captain America starts to doubt himself. And I resonated with that so loudly because it's so indicative of how so many people that are othered in this country feel when they are in mixed spaces doing their best, and then someone plants that one little seed to make them feel less than and make them feel like they can't hold a candle to the person before, which in this case is not true. What I kind of didn't like is that we had Black men fighting against each other. We had Sam suffering from imposter syndrome, like I just said, which is diffused by Sebastian Stan's character. Why does he have to be the person to make Sam not feel like he's less than? I kind of wasn't having that. I understand why they did it. I understand part of the trajectory, but I didn't like that Giancarlo Esposito's character, how they were fighting against each other, that Giancarlo Esposito was the enemy and they were fighting against him. I didn't like how they had Carl Lumley, who was supposed to be his friend, and, you know, another superhero, how they had him fighting against him. I really do not like seeing Black people attack other Black people on screen. I think that it's just a horrible message, and I hated it. I hated that. And I'm entitled to my opinion. I don't want y'all coming for me talking about I'm making this racial. I'm not making it racial. The film made it racial. I'm just commenting on what I saw. Okay? Okay. Having said that, I love Danny Ramirez as the Falcon. I loved Anthony Mackie, and I loved Harrison Ford. Any scenes with the 3 of them and any scene with Carl Lumley and Anthony Mackie, I was there for it. I felt like the talents of Shira Haas and Zosha Rockmore were wasted. Those are the only 2 women in the film. I felt like their talent and their presence was wasted, and they made it mostly about men. Wasn't having that. The action sequences were interesting, but they were super long. The Red Hulk, I don't know how I feel about the Red Hulk. I love that the Red Hulk was Harrison Ford, but I don't know how I feel about the Red Hulk. I'm still processing that. Tim Blake Nelson's character, who was one of the villains in the film, his character felt very 80s. It felt very retro. It didn't feel like something that was happening now. And maybe that's because the film takes place in a different time. It's not taking place in this time and era. It's taking place in a different era. So maybe the makeup was appropriate for that time era. I don't know, but that's what I saw. The CGI for me was a little off in the cherry blossom scenes. You could tell that he was standing in front of a screen, and that kind of bothered me a little bit. But what I totally was down for, that dialogue was fire. It was rapid fire. That dialogue was cracking and happening. I was there for all of it. I love the Wakanda mentions. It was but the Wakanda mentions were a little half baked for people not familiar with the franchise, with the MCU franchise, and how Captain America kind of cooperated or collaborated with the Wakandans. But you'll see how that happens when you see the film if you haven't seen it already. And what I have to say, which I don't really have to say, but I'm gonna say it anyway, I was really down for the fact that Captain America was a black man. I loved that. Loved it, loved it, loved it. I love that the Marvel Cinematic Universe always leans into diversity in a time where diversity is being broken down, where it's being challenged, where it's trying to be erased. I love that the MCU stepped in there and was like, you know what? We just gonna make Anthony Mackie Captain America, and we don't really care how nobody thinks. And Anthony Mackie held it down. I think this is the first time in the MCU, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that he has held down a film on his own. And I think he did that spectacularly. I think it was classy. I think that, Sam finds himself in the middle of an international incident after meeting with President Ross. And he discovers very soon that the reason behind the nefarious global plot before the true mastermind has the entire world seeing red. So he must soon discover that before the entire world is seeing red. Red meaning Red Hulk. I don't know how I feel about Red Hulk. And I'm sure this ain't gonna be the first time we see him or the last, but MCU films always have end credits. They usually have the credit footage roll after all the credits have rolled. You ain't missing nothing if you don't stay for this end credit. I'm just telling. Listen, I am the curvy critic, and I shoot straight from the hip. When I tell you, you ain't missing nothing by seeing them end credits, you ain't missing nothing by seeing them end credits. So, in short, loved Mackie, Ramirez, Harrison Ford, and Carl Lumbly. Loved them in the film. Loved them together. Loved them individually. Loved how their characters played out. I didn't love seeing black on black men fighting. I didn't like the fact that the women were underused, and the Red Hulk is a question mark for me. So that's that. But that's what I have to say about Captain America. I don't want y'all coming for me. I don't want y'all fighting with me. I said what I said. I meant what I said, and I am entitled to my opinion. Okay, let's just say that. I'm sorry I do not have interviews with y'all for you all with anyone from Brave New World, but I was not contacted, nor was I approved for that junket. So you lose some, you win some, and it's all good in the hood because I get my fair share of people to talk to. So I'm not salty about it, but I know people are wondering where her interviews at, why she didn't do an interview. That would be why I didn't do an interview. Okay. All right. Just so that you know that. And again, it's in theaters right now. It's called Captain America, Brave New World. It is produced by Disney. Now, let me get into these Oscar predictions for Best Actor and Best Actress. I talked about Best Actress a little bit, but I'm going to break it down a little further. So Best Actor, we got Timothy Chalamet, we got Adrian Brody, we got Colman Domingo, we got Ray Fiennes, and we got Sebastian Stan. I'm going to start with Sebastian Stan. Sebastian Stan played Donald Trump in a film called The Apprentice. It was an indie film. It did really well over the summer at one film festival in particular, and people were raving about his performance in it. But then it kind of died. And I think it kind of died and went off the radar because that was right around the time the elections were happening. So they kind of, squashed it because they weren't sure how that was going to play out. But when I tell you, Sebastian Stan did his thing as Donald Trump. And when you see The Apprentice, you understand very fully why he is the way that he is. But for me personally, I love Sebastian Stan. I think he is a fabulous actor. But for me personally, I felt like between the two of them, Jeremy Strong gave the stronger performances between the two of them. So that's how I feel about that. And I feel like that slot in particularly could have gone to Hugh Grant for Heretic or Ethan Harisi or Brandon for Nickel Boys. Because Nickel Boys got no love on the acting front at all. And I'll talk about that a little later. Ray Fiennes in Conclave, I have been saying way before Conclave even hit. I said after I came back from the Telluride Film Festival that Conclave was one of my favorite films of the year, and Ray Fiennes is one of the reasons why. So there's that. Coleman Domingo is nominated for his role in Sing Sing. This is based on a true story of a man who was imprisoned at Sing Sing for a crime he didn't commit. And when he was joined by an outsider within the confines of the prison, he finds purpose staging an original comedy with a theater group of other incarcerated men. This is based on a true story. I love that they're showing incarcerated men being creative and not sitting behind bars doing more nefarious things than they were already convicted for, which put them in prison in the first place. But I really love Coleman Domingo. Coleman Domingo is an actor's actor. Everything that he does has purpose, it has meaning. You never feel like his performances are trite. You never feel like his performances are phoned in. He always digs so incredibly deep into every character that he has. There's this one scene in the movie where he's standing and he's looking out the window, and it's such a powerful scene. He's looking out the window where there's sunshine and there's trees and there's fresh air, but yet he's confined inside, and it speaks so loudly to what's happening within the confines of that film. I love that for him. Let's talk about Adrian Brody, who seems to be sweeping in the category for his role in The Brutalist. Like I said and mentioned earlier, Brady Corbett directed and produced this film, and he co-wrote the screenplay with Mona Fastvold. Now, the film is about this architect, Laszlo Toth. This is a real man. This is a real architect that came to America and was held back, so to speak, because he was Jewish. And that was a thing in America for a long time. Jewish people were treated basically like Black people and Latino people and Asian people. They were othered. But Toth comes to America from in a post-war Europe, and he rebuilds his life, he rebuilds his career and his marriage on his own in a strange new country. He ends up settling in Pennsylvania, where a wealthy and prominent industrialist recognizes his talent. This is a deep little film. But what I'm gonna need Hollywood to do, and I've said this more times than not, I need for Hollywood to recognize Adrian Brody for portraying a role other than someone in post-war Europe. The guy is gifted. He has proven time and time again that he is capable of taking on other roles. Did y'all see him in Cadillac Records? He was fabulous. Cadillac Records didn't get a whole lot of play because people were trying to hate on Beyonce, but that's neither here nor there. That's a whole nother conversation. Anywho, I think that Adrian Brody is a fabulous actor. I think that they love him in this role, and I'm glad that he's getting the shine, but I would like to see him get the shine for something else. Like, let him do something else. Timothy Chalamet playing Bob Dylan, child, he was better than Bob Dylan being Bob Dylan. That's all I got to say about Timothy Chalamet. And he was playing he's playing Bob Dylan before he blew up in his heyday. He does a great interpretation of Bob Dylan in this film. And Timothy Chalamet is the only actor on this list that has 2 films out. Well, actually, no, Sebastian Stan has Captain America out now, but Timothy Chalamet also starred in Dune. So he had Dune Part 2, which was a big major movie last year around this time. And then he also has A Complete Unknown. He seems to not be winning anything for A Complete Unknown, but he's getting shine for it nonetheless. Now, let's break down these Best Actress categories a little bit better. Now, but before I get into that, let me just say that some say the race for Best Actor is between Timothy Chalamet and Adrian Brody. I don't think that is the case any longer. with Sebastian Stan as a dark horse. If Timothy Chalamet somehow pulls out a win, he will become the youngest Best Actor winner, breaking Adrian Brody's record. How funny is that? Coleman Domingo would be the first Black actor to be nominated back to back for Best Actor since Denzel Washington. And there we have that. There was another piece of information I wanted to tell you. I think it is centered around the BAFTAs. I found out some information about that I wanted to share with y'all. Oh yeah. So the BAFTAs are especially important in the run up to the Oscars because it's comprised of 13,000 industry professionals from around the world, overlapping with the American Motion Picture Academy. That's why the BAFTAs are so significant in regards to what happens at the Oscars. And 3/4 of the time, people who win the BAFTA go on to win the Oscar. Last year, the top 8 categories were the same at the 2 events. Best Picture for Oppenheimer, Best Director for Christopher Nolan, who was the director of Oppenheimer. Best Actor, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer. Best Actress, Emma Stone for Poor Things. Best Supporting Actor, Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer. Best Supporting Actress, Divine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers. Best Original Screenplay, Anatomy of the Fall. And Best Adapted Screenplay, American Fiction. All of those people in all of those categories that I mentioned at the BAFTAs that went on to win those same awards at the Oscars. And that's why I mentioned the BAFTAs earlier in our conversation, because it is, prominent to do so. Now, let's break down this Best Actress situation. So, Fernanda Torres in I'm Still Here, her performance is fire. You cannot argue with what this woman does in this film. She won the Golden Globe, but I'm not sure if that will translate to the Oscar, because she literally has not won anything else since the Golden Globe, which means nothing. Like and I say this all the time. I remember the year that Sylvester Stallone was nominated for Creed, and Mark Rylance was also in that category. Sylvester Stallone swept that category all the way up to the Oscars. And when it was time for the Oscars to happen, and I remember this specifically because I was in the press room at the Oscars, everybody had their list typed up. They were all ready to, publish their stuff about Sylvester Stallone winning Best Supporting Actor, and Best Supporting Actor went to Mark Rylance. I was like, ooh, okay. And everybody in the room gagged. The same thing could happen in this category. Demi Moore has been sweeping this category up until today when Mikey Madison won for Honora. That kind of like put the brakes on her sweep. So now we're going into the SAG and we're going into the Oscars weekends, and it's pretty much going to depend which one of them walks away with the SAG to see who might possibly walk away with the Oscar. But people love Demi Moore. They love that they had empathy for her when folks said that she was a popcorn actress. People felt some kind of way about that, and they really empathized with her because of that. So I think the race might literally be between the two of them, just based on who's been winning awards. Cynthia Erivo in Wicked, there's no secret regarding how I feel about this performance. But so far, awards-wise, performances for Wicked have not been celebrated, and I'm really struggling to understand why. Like, I don't understand. But what I do know is that a lot of my critic peers have said, oh, there's a part 2. We're just going to wait for part 2. Child, that would be like somebody giving a Tony Award for the act 1 without seeing act 2. It's just dumb to me. It's stupid. And I've said so numerous times in public, and I'm saying it on my podcast too. Not acknowledging Wicked for part 1 is dumb. We don't know what the performances for part 2 are going to look like. We don't know if part 2 is going to be less than stellar than part 1. We don't know. And people are like, well, why was part 1 3 hours? And why is, part 2 going to be 3 hours? Who cares? If a film is good, it's good. Y'all will sit and watch a foreign film that's 3 hours all day long. Like, stop the shenanigans. Anywho, I think that's idiotic. I've said so more than once, and I ain't having it. So there's that. Like I said, Carla Sofia Gascon blew up her career with such a great momentum leading up to the Oscars. She'd been lauded since the Venice Film Festival for playing the title role in Amelia Perez. And with these alleged racist tweets, Netflix, the studio, has completely distanced themselves from her, as have her co-stars Selena Gomez and Zoe Saldana and the director Jacques Audiard. It's unfortunate, and it brings me back to this point. Folk have to be careful what you say on social media. Don't think that you're going to say something today, delete a tweet, or 5 years from now, somebody's not going to find something crazy that you said. They're going to find something crazy that you said. So just don't say it in the first place. Like, seriously, just don't. And Carla Sofia Gascon is learning that lesson the hard way. I feel my heart bleeds for her. It really, really does. But hey, you reap what you sow. Mikey Madison and Honora, if I'm being completely honest, I did not like Honora. I'm probably the only critic on the face of the earth that didn't. I liked Mikey Madison in Honora, but I was not a big fan of this film. I didn't get it. I don't get it. And I just was like, yeah, I didn't get it. I liked her performance, but again, I feel like that slot could have gone to Marianne Jean-Baptiste for Hard Truths and or Ingenue Ellis Taylor. Like, what Ingenue Ellis Taylor does in Nickel Boys is phenomenal. I don't understand, but that's that. So just to recap, we're going to tell you who the actors are again. So for Best Actor, we've got Ralph Fiennes, we've got Coleman Domingo, Adrian Brody, Timothy Chalamet, and Sebastian Stan. For Best Actress, we have Cynthia Erivo, Carla Sofia Gascon, Mikey Madison, Demi Moore, and Fernanda Torres. Now, with this being Black History Month, I would be remiss being a Black woman without pointing out a few things. But before I do that, I just want to reiterate that I did talk about Captain America, and let me show this. In accordance to Captain America, or in light of him being honored, I found this video was sent to me. Anthony Mackie got the key to the city in New Orleans, and they painted a big old.
Without further ado, the mural.
They honored him in his home city of New Orleans. They gave him the key to the city. They did a big Captain America mural, and as you saw from that footage, they honored him. I thought I had turned the volume down on that one, but oops, oh well. So, like I was saying, this is Black History Month, and I would be remiss without telling you about a couple of things to watch. There is a documentary that's called Eyes on the Prize. They have a third version of it, Eyes on the Prize 3, and it's going to be on PBS. And what I will tell you about this is that, there's been a lot of talk about erasing Black history, executive orders prohibiting Black history to be spoken about, talked about, taught, or whatever. But Eyes on the Prize breaks Black history down in a way that everyone will understand, regardless of where you come from. It talks about how in the South Bronx, there was a community that called themselves Banana Kelly. And they, after the riots happened in New York City, they were provided billions of dollars by the Carter administration in government aid to help rebuild that area over 7 years. And this is the one lesson that you will learn when you watch this. Someone in that documentary says you can't depend on our government to give you anything unless you force them. And I've said this a million times. When I was growing up, there was a time where the gas prices were so astronomically ridiculous that people in the Black community decided to boycott. They were walking to work. They were biking to work. They were doing everything that didn't require gas to get to work. And when everybody in our country did that, Black, white, and otherwise, then guess who brought their gas prices down? Because gas prices are not regulated still in this country. When Americans get together, like-minded Americans get together and put their minds to do something for the greater good of Americans and American people, there are no boundaries to what we can accomplish, none. And I just want to say that they also talk about the AIDS epidemic. They talk about budget cuts from Republicans, starting with Reagan, because Reagan beat Carter to come into office during that time. And his slogan was "Make America Great Again." Sound familiar? His budget cuts particularly stressed out the area of Philadelphia, who was already economically stressed. And then they bent over backwards to destroy the MOVE headquarters, which their son now is in the process of trying to raise money to have, my nose is itching, to have a memorial built for them, because that building was blown out and you would never know that those people existed or anything there happened. The AIDS epidemic was detected 5 months into Reagan's administration, and they kept a lid on health spending to stop from giving money to that. And in the process, millions and millions of people died from AIDS. Again, sound familiar? Same thing happened with COVID. The second chapter of Eyes on the Prize talks about zoning, talks about an LA peace treaty with the gangs in LA, because there was a war on crime, there was a war on drugs. And so the Crips and the Bloods in LA made a peace treaty to try to help the economy in the Los Angeles area. But again, police don't make any money if there's a peace treaty. Police only make money in overtime. They get overtime when they're out in the streets trying to combat crime, trying to combat a drug war, trying to combat a gang war. So it didn't last for very long. In chapter 3, they talk about the Clinton crime bill. They talk about programs being slashed, programs being slashed that adversely affected Black and brown people. They talked about the popularity of the show Cops on television, showing Black men and Black people as thugs and criminals. And on the flip side, they gave a lot of attention to the Million Man March and Louis Farrakhan's role in that, and the plan to stop the buses by police with ties to white supremacists. So I say all of this to say that there's a lot of things I could talk about on this podcast in regards to Black history, and a lot of things I could tell you to watch, a lot of movies I could tell you to watch. But in light of what is happening in our world, and in light of me being who I am, and the daughter of the parents that I came from, and a graduate of Howard University, a very well-revered HBCU in America, I would be remiss without telling you about Eyes on the Prize 3. Go to PBS and check it out. If you have not seen 1 and 2, check them out as well. There are 6 episodes for each one. 6 episodes for the original Eyes on the Prize, which won multiple Emmys. 6 episodes for Eyes on the Prize 2, and 6 episodes for Eyes on the Prize 3. And let me tell you, Eyes on the Prize 3 is particularly enlightening. And why? Because Dawn Porter is the executive producer of it. And y'all know how I feel about Dawn Porter. I talk about Dawn Porter on this podcast all the time. So again, check out Eyes on the Prize 3. Make sure that you check out the Screen Actors Guild Awards, which are happening next Sunday, and see if I was right in my predictions and what I had to talk about. If you have not seen Captain America, Brave New World, get to a theater to see that. And yeah, that does it for me. When I come back next week, we're going to talk about the SAG Awards. I'll come on a little bit earlier so we can have some proper time to talk about that. And I'll have some movie reviews, and I'll have a couple of interviews for you. I'm not going to tell you who it is now, though. I'm going to make you wait. But until the next time, y'all, thank you so much for popping through. I appreciate you. I love you. And love, peace, and hair grease until the next time. Deuces.
Hold up. Wait a minute. I wish you love, peace, and hair grease.
Love, peace, and hair grease, y'all.